Hey friends! So last video I showed you how to put on the continuous glucose monitor. The program that I'm using is NutriSense, but today I want to talk to you about what happened to me when I used it. So I've been doing keto for almost 4 years, and I don't cheat with sugar. I just don't have the need to taste anything with real sugar. Something that I do like, some things that I do like though, I like bananas. I like bananas with peanut butter. I like sweet potatoes. I like peas and beans. Beans. I mean, we're in Texas. You have barbecue, you have beans. You have breakfast, you have beans. So one of the things that I started to do when I wore the continuous glucose monitor is I decided to eat a little bit outside of my comfort zone. Because I wanted to test to see what would happen with my glucose. I don't want my glucose spiking over 130. Anything over 130 is proven to create an oxidative stress. And I know that if I eat sugars, mine can go quite high because I battle with insulin resistance. So one morning I went to breakfast with my husband. We went to this little Mexican place, and as with all Mexican places, they serve beans, my favorite, and I was going to have some because I wanted to see what would happen. So luckily with this program, you get a registered dietitian, and as long as you're sharing pictures of your food or you're logging your food, that person can see it and they can help you to see what's happening in your own body and how to prevent big spikes. Because for me, I want to be overall healthy. I want to have a flexible metabolic system, and I don't want weight gain. I want weight loss. So I ordered nothing too bad. I didn't order tortillas. I didn't order potatoes. I really don't care for potatoes. But I did order huevos rancheros with a side of refried beans, my favorite, and hot sauce. That's it. No tortillas, no, nothing else. So huevos rancheros is basically, I get it, eggs over easy, and it's cooked in a red sauce. Delicious. And then a side of beans. And I usually salt, pepper that, and put a little cilantro and a fresh cilantro and onion. So I ate it, and I could not believe that when I ate it, I ate the beans, like the minute I got the plate, I started eating the beans because I haven't had them in a long time. They're super yummy. I mean, I cheat with beans. Who cheats with beans? So I started to eat them, and I ate the whole thing. I think I had 3 eggs and a little side of beans. And I could not believe, if you looked at my numbers, you would have thought that I would have had a piece of cake. My glucose, I think it spiked to 160. What? From beans. I was eating a little bit of beans and mostly red sauce and eggs. Okay, so after speaking to the registered dietitian, she goes, it's okay. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you what happens. So if we're carb sensitive and we're battling insulin resistance, you absolutely don't want to have something high in carb as the first meal of the day. Your body will just go out of whack. Now, the way to hack that is I should have eaten the eggs first, and then maybe when I finished the eggs, I probably could have had the beans then, but I needed to have the eggs first. The eggs are going to stabilize that blood sugar to not have the spike happen. But she said, the registered dietitian, her name is Carly, the one that I work with, she told me that it's better to have carbs in the middle of the day because that's when your blood sugar is the most stable. That's when you can handle it. You're probably a little more active. Your glycogen stores are higher, and you can just handle it better. So I think you just want to stay away from the carbs in the morning and in the evening. So that's the first little hack that happened. So the second thing, let me tell you the second thing that happened. I decided the next week we got invited by some friends who were going to treat us to dinner here in Austin, Texas. We were going to Estancia. I don't know if you guys know what Estancia is, but it is a Brazilian steakhouse. One thing that there's lots of keto options at a Brazilian steakhouse, But one thing they absolutely have there is Brazilian cheese bread. And it is not, it's probably the lower carb of bread because it is made with cheese, but it is not keto friendly. And of course, they have amazing desserts. Like you're going to have a 4-course meal. So I messaged my dietitian who was watching my numbers, and I told her, look, I never cheat, but we're going to Estancia. It's been a few years since I've been to Estancia, and I am going to indulge. I'm not going to go overboard, but I am going to indulge. I'm having cheese bread, people. I'm having cheese bread. It's, this is life, right? We have some things, we indulge, we know we're going to make decisions that we're going to do things, and then we just go back on track. Well, that's what I was doing. So she messages me real quick, and she's like, oh, great, I'm so glad you're going out. And I told her in my message that when you go to an all-you-can-eat Brazilian steakhouse, I don't know about you, but I don't eat all day, and I'm looking forward to that meal. One thing I really like to do is I like to go to dinner early, though, especially if I'm fasting, because I don't want to eat really late, because then if I eat a lot and I eat really late, I'm not going to sleep good. So we had plans to go to dinner with our friends at 5, and she messaged me back, and she said, good plan. You fasted all day. So she said the first thing when you go to eat is you can either start with one of two things. You can either start with straight protein first to stabilize your blood sugar, or you can do a salad with no carbs, like a straight salad, like probably hold off on the cheese a little bit, no croutons, just straight veggies. When you eat something, then it stabilizes your blood sugar, then you eat the meal, and then you can have some bread. And sure enough, I did that. I started with protein because the guy came along with an amazing steak, and that's what I started with. Everybody else started with salad. I don't care. I started with the steak. So I had a few bites of steak, and then somebody came along with some shrimp, so I had some shrimp. And then I started with the salad. So I had salad. I think I had a few more pieces of meat, and by this time I was already feeling full, but I did not want to miss out on bread. So they brought some fresh bread. I had some cheese and some bread. Oh my gosh, I ate 4 of those little pop-up breads, those puffy little cheesy, gooey goodness things. 4. And I indulged. So then I was stuffed after that. They asked for dessert. I'm not big on dessert. I care more about the bread. So I didn't. My daughter ordered, I think the flan. I think it was the flan. No, she ordered the creme brulee. That's what she did. She ordered the creme brulee. So when I looked over at the creme brulee, I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a little taste just to see, because I haven't had sugar in forever. So I took the fork, and I took what was probably just like a tiny amount. I mean, if I were to put it in a measuring spoon, it was probably a half a teaspoon. And I took it just a little bit at the edge of the fork, and I went to go eat it. And immediately I felt like the sugar, when you don't have sugar for a while and you eat pretty healthy and, you have some natural sugars, the sugar that's made in those type of desserts, they hit you like a ton of bricks. And it's just like, oh, whoa. So I took it, and she goes, do you want me to share with you? I said, no, half a teaspoon was enough for me. That's it, no more. And I kind of tasted it in my mouth, and it was so rich, it was so creamy, it was so sweet that I was like, no more, that's it. Well, when I looked at my numbers, you are not going to believe, when I looked at my numbers, my whole dinner, even with the bread, was perfectly fine. I did not go over a 130 spike. The way she had me hack my dinner to include the bread was perfectly fine. But when I took a half a teaspoon of creme brulee, my sugar spiked to 171 from a half of a teaspoon of creme brulee. So when I talked to her about this, she was like, I'm super happy to see that when you had the bread, it all stayed stable. It was perfect. But she said, wow, you haven't had sugar in a long time because your body doesn't know what to do with it. You can go keto for so long and your body only knows what to do with ketones. So when you are hit with real sugar, your body forgets what to do. Remember when you ate keto and your body didn't know how to handle ketones? Our goal should be to be metabolically flexible. We should be able to bounce back between glucose and ketones. We should burn both fuels with no problem. And our body shouldn't be in shock when we have that happen. So the dietitian, the last step that she gave me before I went is she said, if you're going to have a really big meal like that, she said, if you would have had more time and told me ahead of time, I would have had you do maybe a little bit of workout ahead of time, some weightlifting or some resistance training, just to open up your glycogen stores so you wouldn't have such a big spike. But after you eat, when you have a big meal, she goes, I want you to just like go for a walk. I walk about 5 miles a day, between 3 and 5 miles, usually 5 miles. But she wanted me to go ahead and walk that evening because it just helps deplete. It helps to get rid of all the glucose that's in your system. So sure enough, right after dinner, I came home. I did not sit down. I put on my walking clothes and I hit the pavement and went walking. I went walking for, I think it was 45 minutes. And my glucose spike went up real quick and it went down just as quick. So there were a couple different lessons here. When you have a big glucose spike like that, you don't want that, because anything over 130, that's when you're getting oxidative stress. That's when you don't want that. You want to avoid those situations. So she told me a couple of things. If I choose and want to eat more bread in my diet, or if I want to have more sweeteners in my diet, that I should slowly start to incorporate those at the right times of the day with protein so that my body won't spike in the glucose. So that my body can handle it. It can learn to handle those sweeteners again. I don't do that often. It wasn't even enjoyable. I like the keto desserts that I make, so I'm totally okay with that. I probably won't. The bread, I really like bread, and my favorite bread right now is Sola bread. So, yeah, it was a really big lesson to learn that timing makes a difference. How you eat protein first versus bread in between, it will help not do that. And the biggest news of all, the next day I lost a pound. I lost a whole pound. I can't even believe it. I cheated and I lost a pound. Whoa. Okay, stay tuned, because next time I'm going to tell you another story of something I've learned from my experiment with the continuous glucose monitor. Stay tuned. See y'all later.